we're coming to move on to our second topic, which is from one-directional relationships to mutual place sharing. Because the church usually relates to children through Sunday schools or uniformed organisations, groups and clubs, the relationships between different generations are often characterised by a one-directional nature. We have teachers and we have students. We have leaders and we have attendees. We have volunteers and we have participants. And it can almost give the impression that faith is a one-directional street from adults to children. If our churches are to become truly intergenerational communities, we need to move beyond this and to make the movement from one-directional relationships to relationships of mutual place sharing, relationships with more of a family dynamic, where we're all regarded as equals in discipleship. Jen, we've spoken a little bit about the words we use already, but does our language matter in how we label people and their roles in this sort of thing?
Yes, it certainly does. And I think our attitude as well as our words in this context. So I'll give you a wee story of just something new we've done in lockdown that I think shows us in practice. So we have 4 first to third years high school young people in our congregation. We're not a congregation who has loads and loads of young people. And they asked during lockdown if they could meet on Zoom to talk about the Bible. Which is great. And we thought, we could have gone down various routes. We could have, got a plan, a curriculum, a set of themes, but we didn't. We just bought them all the same Bible, and we are just not going through the whole Bible. We've just taken out bits from right from the start of the Old Testament to the New Testament to get an overview of what the Bible's all about. And each fortnight that we meet for an hour, we've all just read it and we all doodle on the Bible, we take notes, and we all so there's 2 adults, 4 young people, and we come together as a group of people who have read the Bible and bring all the things that stood out to us, the things that we don't understand, the things that confuse us, the things we like. And we just create a space, as we've been talking about, to have those conversations. Now, obviously, myself and the other adults still have a safeguarding responsibility to these young people, and we are adults and we've lived a bit longer and we've got different experiences. But very much the feel of the group is that here we all are with the Bible and we're all learning together. And I've learned some amazing things from them, and I'm sure they've learned something from me. And I think this is something we can really do in the things we're doing already. It doesn't need to something you create new. But just thinking, how can we change? I'm not a volunteer with this group. I wouldn't use that word. I'm part of their church family who's a bit older and been around a bit longer, and I'm happy to sit down with them online and talk about the Bible. So I think these words do matter. As Jesus said, who is my brother and my sister and my mother? It's the people that do what I want, and that's the kind of relationships you should have in the church family.
Michelle, have you seen that same shift in perspective through Godly Play, for example?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. In Godly Play, we have a phrase called mutual blessing. And so when you're in the circle with the children or the young people or the adults that you're sharing the stories with, we're all mutually blessing each other in the wondering and in the story and the response as well. And we've certainly seen that with what used to be called Sunday School. It's now called Sunday Stars. But our folks who are helping out there have found that when they now view the children as journeying with them in faith rather than instructing them, it changes everything. And so we're very much of the idea that children are not empty vessels. We're not trying to fill them with all this knowledge, but instead they have so much more that they can share with us and that we can grow and learn together. And that ethos from Godly Play has spilled out into youth group and into young adults group. And even occasionally I hear the minister wonder in the sermon, so the wondering is spilled out into other areas as well, which is lovely. But especially in lockdown, because we could tell about what Godly Play is about, but really experiencing it makes the difference. And so parents in lockdown are now part of our Godly Play circle. And all of a sudden they're hearing the stories and they're responding in their own homes alongside their children, and they're wondering as well. And then in the week between the 2 stories, the parents can see the children still wondering about that story and still making sense of it and responding to it in nature and craft and all sorts of ways. And those connections are being made within the family too. So now the parents can really be journeying alongside their children in faith rather than feeling they need to instruct either, but more learning from each other. And I'm hopeful that that would then spill out to the wider congregation as well. But at the moment, the wider congregation hasn't experienced what's in the halls, and quite often don't even get to messy church. So actually, there's still a need to help the congregation at large to experience the idea of mutually blessing each other and learning from the children as well.
Roddy, you've got something similar. Your church has a manifesto, and a bit of it says, all God's people have plenty to say to enrich our life together. All ages participate in expressing faith in prayers and worship, in ideas and belief and music, and in just being God's people. How did that come about, and what could that look like in practice?
Mm-hmm. In many ways, that's aspirational, but in many ways, we're learning as we go along, and we're not as far along the line as we'd like to be with that. But I suppose some examples of that might be in our liturgy. What a real bugbear of mine is worship leaders who just take things directly out of common order. I think it's up here somewhere. You know, the book, you know, and in here is every service we're allowed to take, you know, and half a dozen communion services, funeral services, weddings, etc. And we just kind of take the book and we repeat. And that's not who we're meant to be. This is not prescriptive in any way whatsoever. This is just a suggestion. It says it in the front cover, you know, and we take that literally. And so every time we share communion, it's a brand new liturgy, particularly our all age. Well, there's that word I said we wouldn't use all age communion, but that communion for our family communion is what we actually officially call it. You know, where we just start from scratch, because there is actually nothing we need to do. You had an ordained person for the epiclesis. That's the bit that calls down the Holy Spirit to bless the bread, etc. But John Knox didn't think that was important and didn't have that in his first book of discipline. So actually, when the Church of Scotland started, there was very little that someone with a dog collar had to be there to do. So we've kind of sort of taken that literally. We use the pattern in here as a corrective, so we don't stray so far from a tradition that it wouldn't be recognizable. But we start with a blank sheet of paper and we include other people, anyone who wants us, an open invitation to come along and say, right, what's the central part of this service? And we talk about that, and it's bread and wine and it's sharing. So how do we want to get to that? What stories do we need to tell in order to shape that breaking of bread and sharing? How are we going to share that together? And now we've shared it, what do we do with it? How do we move from the table out back into the world? And these three questions, what do we do before? How do we do it in practice sharing it? And what do you do afterwards? Are questions that we ask each time we write a liturgy. And we tend to do it with young folk who are more fluid with the tradition. And so when we actually share communion together in a family setting, it's the adults, the grown-up adults that are more refreshed than anyone. It's the one I panic most about because no one's going to be happy about this, but actually by far more are engaged with that kind of service because the liturgy has been written by God's people. And that's what liturgy means. It's the work of the people. And I just remember once using the liturgy out of here and word for word, and it's the one I got most complaints about for being dull. I mean, it's true, and I'm not just, but it was the one it was the dullest communion we did. And so it's just that moment where we as God's people can find the words, shape the words for this particular culture and place. And it's for this particular time and place and community. It's a parish church I belong to. So the parish that I'm part of is different from the one next door. We have different streets, we have different communities, different socioeconomic backgrounds, etc., etc. So we tell stories differently, we engage differently. And so the language has to be our language for God and to God and with God and around each other and not the one next door. Parish is really, really important. It's all about the culture and sharing who we really are. And so I suppose I would answer that question thinking about liturgy, particularly about communion liturgy, because it's not just words. It's the one time the Church of Scotland actually gets to play with pictures, symbols, bread and wine and water as well. It's all we've got. And to use that visual stuff as well is really, could sit all day and talk about communion and how to rewrite and reimagine communion liturgy. It's just a fabulous place to be. We should be known as people of the bread and wine. And if that's who we're known as, we have to tell a story about that every time. It's going to be a fresh story. It's not the old story. It's a bit of that, but because of that old story, we've got new stories to tell. I'll shut up.
I've a good time, Darren, for just, I would say, one of the most meaningful intergenerational things we've done in lockdown was our messy church communion. And I say messy church, it was very broad. I mean, there's loads of people came on Zoom to do that last Good Friday lunchtime, and we'll do it again this Good Friday. All the wee faces on the screen, single people, couples, children, teenagers, families, with their own bread and wine, being led through something that we knew so well, but in a very different context, and making things together at home to help us think about what we were doing. You know, so people are looking for something to try. You know, that just worked so well for us, our Good Friday communion all together. And we'll do it again this Good Friday. And people are looking forward to that. I mean, it's sad we can't be physically together, but it was still very meaningful on Zoom.
Of that experience, and we've done exactly the same. Yeah. We've had a much better conversation about rewriting liturgy on Zoom than we would face-to-face in the hall, because the context is we're in the church hall. That we've learned a lot, and I think that will move into the conversations where we can have face-to-face. So had that experience.
So we're going to pause again there and let you continue this conversation with one another. If you find a question is helpful to help you along, then thinking of your own congregation, how can you nurture an environment where all are regarded as equal partners in discipleship?